Welcome to the Divine Feminine Revolution podcast, where women are magical and empowered. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Monday, psychologist turned transformational feminine business coach. This podcast is for you if you want to prioritize your own pleasure, face your fears, and manifest your desires. This podcast is sponsored by the Fearless Feminine Academy, where I teach women how to turn their trauma into their superpowers. My goal is to show women that we can heal our world by creating time and financial freedom by doing whatever the fuck we want. Are you ready for the Divine Feminine Revolution? Let's get vulnerable and go deep. I'm so honored that you're here. Hey everyone, welcome. Dr. Megan Monday here, and as part of my Fearless Feminine Academy launch, I have one of my dear friends, Kathlin, here. I totally roped her in on the fly to do a live, as I'm known to do. Okay, so this is like the exposure therapist in me. You know, one of the best ways to conquer your fears is like if you're afraid of heights, they take you up to the Empire State Building. So we kind of just like threw you in here and you were willing, which is the sign of a successful business owner. Just be willing to take the plunge. And so tell me like a little bit of your background.
Okay. Well, I graduated from pharmacy school in 2010, and all my life I was very academic and, had to have this structure and this path. And so after about 3 or 4 years into working full-time as a pharmacist, I started to really kind of feel burnout, feel like maybe what I'm doing all day, every day is not really in line with like who I am, who Kathlin is, what I was put here for. So I started looking into yoga. I went to a 200-hour yoga certification.
Can we show off like some of your tattoos and stuff? You're not the most traditional therapist.
I get some looks sometimes.
Pharmacist. But I think this is like, oh, you got a thumbs up on that one.
Cool.
Yeah.
I got more,
yeah,
but
she's all the way going.
We'll keep this, for now.
So there, I don't know if people really know what the lifestyle of a pharmacist is like, but it is like really brutal. They have like one of the highest like addiction rates because it's such a stressful job. It's like, think of like the worst parts of retail with all the pressure of like, if you make a mistake, you could kill someone.
That's exactly right. I mean, that, you got the retail, you're like trying to please customers, but you also want to get their medicine right. So you're like trying to do it in, negative 5 seconds. So it can be a lot of pressure, hit numbers, just constant, your cortisol levels like at 1,000 million, because like for the whole 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours, you're on your feet, you're constantly bending over backwards, you're doing about 10 things at once. So it can be, over time, it can really, really wear on you. Needless to say, and you leave work and you're still like all jacked up and you're driving home and you're yelling at your husband and whatever else you got going on.
And then you got mom life on top of it, right? You've got some littles at home. How old are your kids?
I have a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old.
They're so precious. 3 and 4.
Whew. They're 19 months apart.
Needless to say, you're over ambitious in a certain way, right?
I was like, let's just do this thing if we're going to do this. Just gonna have
that level of like risk and just like all in is like really what makes successful business owners. So we just kind of were chatting the hour before, talking about like what kind of products she might have, like what's her, the people that I want in the academy are someone with like a big soul mission. And I think when you have a big soul mission, you like sort of know like at this deep level that it's going to be like really big and that you've got this like really powerful mission to heal the world. And it's easy to get like fearful or in your head around that. Like, oh my God, like, can I really do this? Do people really want this? Like, what's it all about? So just tell me a little bit about like when you got into your yoga teaching certification, and you've shared some of the videos in the group, which I love to see. And like, you're so good on camera, which I think is another great trait that helps, especially if you have an online business. So like, did you have sort of a spiritual awakening when you started doing the yoga? And I know Reiki's a part of that for you. Like, tell me all about that.
Definitely. So when you go through yoga school, I mean, you have those 200 hours, but you're also keeping a journal of your daily yoga practice, and you are changing yourself so that you can then go and really truly be authentic when you're sharing the yoga lifestyle with others. So I would say that was definitely a spiritual awakening, just doing some work on myself. And then, so just through lots of turn of events, I sought out some therapy. And I just happened to be like so lucky and blessed to live in a place and like the stars all aligned, and I was able to find Megan. And I sought out her, of course, for some therapy for some issues, but then it's kind of turned into more of, hey, just, here's some other stuff. And so she introduced me to Reiki, which has absolutely 100% changed my life. Like I can't even, you can do self Reiki, you can learn some of the techniques, but, I do feel that there's universal energy that's available to everyone. So it doesn't have to be super complicated. So just Reiki healing. And then of course with yoga on top of that, it's all been really good. And so, my daily habits have helped really kind of change who I am, and I would love to help others.
Hey, quick tip. If you're a Reiki practitioner, if you do have to take something like medication, and, sometimes we have sensitive systems, they come with side effects. One of the things you can actually do is like Reiki your medication. So that might be kind of cool while you're working your day job, like as a pharmacist. You can just like turn on a little like Reiki healing. As I'm talking about it, my hands are warming up. That's how Reiki does.
So when I give flu shots, which y'all know that's a huge part of my job, I like do this like secret little Reiki, like no one knows. I'm like a very like, I'm like to like send my healing shot. Like I know I'm stabbing your muscle right now, but like I love you and I care, so, and the power of touch. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely. So like, what's the cost of like you having this healing ability? I mean, I did the same thing, like during staff meetings. I just hate staff meetings when I was working more of a day job in like the universities. I would just sit there and do like Reiki on myself, or before I had like the creative freedom to just like be a healer and a psychologist, I would like, you can like blow a Reiki symbol. And so I would just like take a deep breath. And then I would like blow a symbol on my client if they were really struggling. And so I love that you're giving like Reiki flu shots.
And it's like, you can't advertise it, right? You're like, no one's going to come get a flu shot from you. They, I think you're doing something funky on them. But it comes from a place of love and like huge well-intention. And I truly believe in that, energy healing. So, but yeah, I'd say one of the things that I really would love to start incorporating in is really taking that time before I go into work and doing that kind of like Reiki energy shield. Mm-hmm. So I've gotten better about like my commute and at least taking some time for some affirmations and meditation and stuff just to kind of prepare. I've got to protect my energy for that 10 hours of insanity. So it's an excellent tool for no matter what job you have, or if you're going into something where you really need to protect your energy. So
that's and I think being with the public, it's really good. I like to do a zip up where you can't quite see, but I'm like, if you kind of start at your crotch and then pull up and then zip right under your nose. Yeah. That helps like close your energy field. And I notice a difference. I've actually been slacking a little bit in doing that. And when I had created that as like, sometimes people call it like a lime time as their morning ritual. Mm-hmm. When I did that as like a regular practice, I did find I was a lot less likely to take on other people's energy. So we were talking about you joining the Fearless Feminine Academy, Yay! Which I'm so for. And I want all of you to join the Fearless Feminine Academy. That's why we thought it might be good to kind of like do a live discovery call sort of strategy session. And for me, sometimes I was like reluctant as the customer to get on a call because I was like, oh my God, this person totally is going to sell me, which sometimes happens, but I'm all about an empowered no. So like, I hate high pressure sales. And in fact, that's probably like kind of held me back in my business because, sales is a huge part of it. So if you're thinking of coaching, like make sure you're able to sell. Sales is service. I do truly, I've really worked on my mindset around that. But it's not like, when you're working a day job, like you get paid no matter what. Like for me with my private practice, I don't have to do a lot of selling because people have kind of already chosen me by the time they're wanting to make an appointment. But when you're talking about coaching, especially if you're at the higher level price points, there is like a lot of going live. There's a lot of posts. There's a lot of actual just like sales pitches. And so the people that have a lot of success are really good at sales. And so just want to like kind of informed consent, like put that out there for people,
Right.
that there's going to be a ton of visibility. And I think visibility is like the most important first step. So why I created the Academy was really to get people, if you don't know my story, kind of similar to yours, like started to burn out as a psychologist because I do a lot of trauma work. I am an empath, was taking on a lot of people's energy, which was good for them because they felt better. But like, at the end of a long day, you're like, oh my God, like, oh, and because I just felt this like awakening and let's call it like a midlife crisis where I was like, I've been giving my energy to people for so long. I really want to invest in myself. And that investment was like well worth it. It was like kind of a crazy amount of money. But that's sometimes what you do as a business owner. Since I've been in business for 10 years in private practice, like I'm used to paying rent, I'm used to paying for insurance, I'm used to like throwing some money into my business. And I think actually when we're talking about Graham, it's all about like, do you trust yourself to follow through and make your money back?
Right.
So like, tell us a little bit about your yoga journey because, we've seen the videos here in the group. Like, have you gotten a return on the investment for that? Like either personally, and that can mean many things,
Right. So one of the things I noticed right away, of course, I had to get over the fear, right, of just going live. And I'm like, you know what? Like I committed to, so I'm teaching for a gym online. I said, I'm going to show up at 6:00. Like I'm going to do this. So I showed up, things weren't perfect. There was a lot of, back and forth, but I have been amazed. First of all, after I teach the video, I leave and I'm like glowing and I'm just in the best mood for like at least another hour. So like it's healing me too. That's the thing that I think a lot of people forget is yes, you're like healing with this energy, but like it's flowing through you. Like if you're truly in it and like really engaged, like it's going to be healing you. And it's, you spend this hour giving this out, but you're getting a lot of it back. So I noticed that first of all, but also like it gets easier and easier each time. And you find that if you show up as yourself, I have had random people message me or tell me like when we're texting about something else, oh, I saw your yoga videos, like I absolutely love it. Or, hey, I had someone reach out to me actually yesterday and say, I'm a pharmacist and I love yoga and I didn't know there was anyone else like me. So that was really kind of cool, just kind of out of nowhere. So now we're friends and hopefully we'll, have a good relationship and, grow. And
that could be a client.
Could be a client, could be a new best friend, could be both, like, so.
And that's what I love about coaching is that like, they're really like, it's almost like I get paid to like hang out with people that I love and like, basically like help them grow and develop a successful business so they can do what they want. And we can change the world while we're doing it. Like It does like fill you up in this way that like, pushing pills or, for me, like billing the insurance companies, like that stuff is not fulfilling.
Right.
So,
I think that's what it's supposed to be like. Like we're supposed to like enjoy how we spend our time and like the empowerment and it's contagious and it's great. So.
Yeah. So my story when I started sort of investing in coaching, like it was the right thing for me because like I said, it was a little bit of a midlife crisis. I've done like a ton of healing work. I've done a lot of my own like personal development work, but what I was sort of missing was someone like pouring into me, like it was pouring into other people, whether it was mom or partner or clients, whether it was like the business itself. And so I just like really craved this like community, the sisterhood, and to just be like surrounded by like powerful women because they really let you see what's possible. And when they're supporting you, you've got this little like cheerleading squad that like likes all your posts and jumps on your lives, and it really just like helps build that initial momentum to like make the business take off. However, the downside of having several coaches investing a ton of money was that it was a lot of pressure, and we know that pressure we don't want pressure, we want pleasure, right? And so in the notorious way that us overachiever perfectionists do, I totally overcomplicated it. And like I said, I made so many connections, like each personal transformation experience was totally worth it. I am using pieces of every single thing I've learned. But if you want like initial results, which is what I really want to give people, like if you're just thinking about starting a business, if you're like us, wanting a way out of this career that you spent a lot of money and time and energy to pay for. If you've been watching some of my podcast episodes, a lot of people have talked about leaving corporate and then their friends and family being like, what the hell are you doing? you're successful, like you're just going to walk away from that. And I think it's one of those things that like you can do both. And it doesn't have, I mean, for some people it's just like a start stop, but I think for a lot of us, we're doing both. Like I still have my private practice, you know, right now, how many hours are you working?
44.
So like, can we imagine, let's not take it off the table completely, but let's just imagine you went down to part-time and then you really started this passion project business. Like, what would your like? How would your life change if you only had to work 20 hours as a pharmacist?
Wow. So, you know, I think I would still, I would miss, like, if I stopped completely, you know what I mean? Like, I think I would really miss that. And I, you know, I invested a lot of time in it. Obviously something drew me there. So, you know, I've still got that and that structure, but then that frees up these hours where I would have been out anyways, you know, working. And so just mentally for time management purposes, like I think that helps my brain kind of think, okay, well, let's just take this, let's put this into something else. My stress level would be a lot less. I would definitely feel more like, okay, I can't wait to get up and like go to work today because, you know, this is a day where I'm, you know, pouring into this passion project. I get to go help people, like, you know, do what I was put here to do. And with the universe backing you, like, yes, you know, you're gonna, it's gonna go where it needs to go. So you have that faith in that. So.
And that was kind of like where I found this like midlife crisis moment of saying like, okay, I hit all these goals. Like I had the lake house, I had the PhD, I had a successful business, but it was like running me ragged and I like wasn't enjoying it. And we all know that if you have kids, like the kids are growing up fast. Mine's almost 8. I can't even believe that. You know, you're still in the thick of it with like the littles. But like, you know, we've created all this success, but like, are you actually enjoying it, enjoying your life, you know? And I think
Right.
that's what the pain points are for when, especially I think the more you've invested in like student loans or a particular career path that's dominated your life, it's hard to like kind of walk away from that. So this might be something where you could just like get out of the grind. And one of the things we were talking about is like, what would it be like to cut back to even like 40 hours? Brandy says she does it. So she's got her passion project and she's got her day job, right? And so a lot of us are in that boat. And to me, that's like the perfect piece for the Fearless Feminine because you got the money coming in so you can pay for the investment in yourself. You don't have all the pressure of like, you know, you've got to make money right away. Although I do see sometimes that works for people. Sometimes they get like axed or they go through a divorce or their partner loses their job or, you know, whatever kind of crazy life happens. It's the universe is like, okay, you're ready. Right. But then there's people like us who it's like, okay, you know, how can we do both? So like we talked about like just going down to 40 hours, not even part-time and taking those 4 hours and putting it to your business. So let's like take a step back to, we've got the yoga, we've got the Reiki. We're kind of talking in the thing of like holistic health life coach. What do you think? We talked about a couple different products earlier. Like, what do you feel drawn to?
Well, a couple of the things I'm really drawn to, I'll try to just narrow it down to 3 for now because I have a lot of things swimming in my head. And one of the things Megan is so good at is listening and then like kind of spitting it back at you in a way where you're like, oh, okay. So even just within the last hour with her, we kind of came up with a few things. One would be just almost just kind of sticking with that yoga piece because that really, really resonates with me. So, you know, maybe starting small, doing like an online yoga or like people have a membership fee. Mm-hmm. I've already got a few videos, but, you know, just adding to that, potentially doing like a workshop where, you know, you're paying more than just the $1 to $150 an hour or whatever your price is, but it would be paying for the workshop, but it would be all Zoom. Which of course these days is ideal anyway, but.
And a professional tip, anytime you're on Zoom with an offering like what we're doing now, we're having a little bit of tech issues. So we're using the phone and Zoom, but record everything because you never know. You can totally repurpose some of that stuff later.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that too. So that was awesome advice. And then, you know, she kind of pointed out, well, like, hey, you know, you're this professional, but like you also have this other side, but like you could speak to pharmacists. So maybe marketing to other pharmacists or other healthcare professionals, or, you know, even it could be as broad as just corporate, but those who have that time and they're short on time, but like, here's some health and wellness for you. Here's some things you can do to improve your life. And maybe you're still passionate about what you do and that's great or whatever, but like, let's get a little bit healthier. So maybe moving more towards your passion, or maybe it's like, let's go through some meal plans, some nutrition, let's talk a little bit about your exercise, your movement, like what's something that works for you. So just something like that, maybe.
I think it's really important to know who your people are. So if your people are pharmacists, if they're moms, if they're professionals, like one of the cool little things that I've just invested in, there's an app called I Am. It's like $20 for the year, and it sends you push notifications with affirmations. So I think a big part of coaching, like you can be like the best healer, the best practitioner, you can like really know your shit. But if you get into like fear, and believe me, all your fears are going to come up. Like there's no way, like that stuff is there. And that's why I created like the Fearless Feminine Academy, is that especially when you get visible on a big arena like social media, you almost need like what I did to Kathlin today, which was just like ambush her and be like, hey, let's just press live and go. Versus if she had been like in her own head about like, oh, okay, I'm going to meet with Megan and we're going to do this thing, So that's the power of coaching, is like someone holds your hand and just says, okay, we're ready to go do it. And that's the power of like messy inspired action. So even if it's like 100 degrees in here, which it is, we just like go with it. Right. And so, I think it's about knowing who your client is and then not overcomplicating it. And this is where I know for me, I like saw these amazing women that were like, had $1 million businesses, and they were saying and doing the things that I wanted to do. And I was like, I want to be like her. I'm going to invest in her. And then they were giving me $1 million coaching. Well, I wasn't there yet. Like I'm still like dealing with like my own fears of like rejection and abandonment. And so, I'm like, oh my God, do I want to get on a discovery call? Like, can I sell someone, a multi-$1,000 program? Like that. For them, it's easy. They've been doing it for years, And so when they're pushing me to do it in this way, what worked for them may not work for me. And so that's what I came in. And then, some of us intuitives were like kind of stubborn, and my Capricorn kicked in, was like, I'm not going to do that thing, And so it was finally like, and some of that was self-sabotage. And so that's where I think the fearless part comes in. There's so much that comes up. And if you think past lives, if you've been a healer and, like that whole like burning witches thing, like so much insecurity comes up, especially if you're talking about some of the more like spiritually based things, and then for you, you've got that professional lens of like, okay, I'm a doctor, I'm a pharmacist, like, can I say these things in a public venue, and like, yes, you can, and so we talked about maybe having like a business name, right? Mm-hmm. Like having something that's not you as the product, which obviously like you're always like, why people invest is like, they believe in you, they feel your energy, they think you can deliver the results, but like, it's easier to promote, like for me, the Fearless Feminine Academy versus saying like, buy me,
Right.
So yeah. I think we can overcomplicate it, especially if you have a lot of voices. And then a lot of times when we start, especially with social media, we do like vanilla it down because we don't want to say anything controversial. We don't want to piss people off. But there's so much noise on social media that's like not really the most effective strategy. And so there's sort of like a cliche in the coaching field that if you are scared to like hit post, that's the post that's going to go viral. And in my experience, it's been true. Like the stuff I'm like, as a professional, I would maybe not want to talk about these things. Like as a coach, like this is how you like call your people in, is like you're real, you're raw, you're vulnerable. And that's like a big part of the Fearless Feminine Academy, is like the leaders that want to like change the world by like changing the narrative, changing, like taking up all the space, like embodying this like really powerful like goddess woman who can like help people. So we were kind of just talking about like what would be an hourly that she makes. She makes good money as a pharmacist. And, I think a big important piece of this is that you have a stay-at-home dad at home. And so you're the sole provider. So like no pressure there, right?
Right. Yeah.
So like you're making good money. You're also the sole provider. So that's like kind of a hard thing to walk away from. And I think so many people get locked into like kind of a soul sucking job because of the money, right? So we talked about maybe scaling back like 4 hours, and then creating a product, figuring out like who are the people that lights you up, and just really not overcomplicating it. And I think a lot of us can get shut down around tech. So like, I just showed her real quick, like how to use Zoom and how to stream it to Facebook, although that wasn't working, and how to go live. And, she could have spent like 6 months being like, well, I just don't know what kind of platform or how to go live, or the tech is scary, and she could have lost 6 months just not going on camera. And so someone can show you in 2 minutes and you're like, oh, that's it. That's all you have to do. Mm-hmm. And that's where technology is like amazing to make these things possible. But I think for you, I mean, yeah, like who's going to turn away millions of dollars, but like the money is not as important as like the mission and as like being happy and being fulfilled. You just need to like make at least as much money as you're making now. Right. So, and that's the cool thing about coaching is like, it is really doable because the price points are more, you can have, products that like you film once and then sell passive income products. You can have like one-to-many. So instead of doing one-on-one sessions, you can tape it and then that becomes your product, or you can have like a group full of people. In a program right now with like 150 people in it, and it's amazing. And so let's see, if 150 people pay, let's say $1,000, how much money is that? $150,000. And I believe that program is in 9 hours of actual live content. Can you imagine?
That's amazing.
Can you imagine like you're working 44 hours and then going home and taking care of your kids? Those sleepless nights when they're like throwing up or like whatever it is. And then you still have to go to work and you have to be nice. When you can like literally be making as much or more with just like a few hours. Now, let me be totally transparent. Like it is not necessarily for most people an immediate success thing. It is about like building an audience, building a following. And that's what I think derails people a lot is the visibility piece. And then like if you're like me and you, or we're creative, we got a million ideas. Like sometimes we'll like self-sabotage because we're like, oh, I'm not into that anymore. I'm going to switch over to this thing. And so a lot of business is just like about like really like streamlining it and continuing. Like I'll give you a perfect example. I'm in the middle of the launch for the Fearless Feminine Academy, and I pulled everybody, and people said they really liked hearing from fearless feminine leaders. So I said, okay, cool. I'm going to make that like my event, my live series. So I also had wanted to do a podcast, and so I'm going to have it do double duty. But now all of a sudden I've got all these like podcast interviews, and really my energy kind of switched over to that as like the next project versus like focusing on like selling my program so I can make some money. So it's easy as creatives because it is so fulfilling and you just like love doing it. It like pours out of you. It can be like, I've got so many like products and content and things that I've created. And that's like very personally fulfilling for me. And I need to remember that like, hey, this is a business and I do want to like make money doing it. So I think it's like a commitment issue. It's really about like committing, trusting yourself, calling in your soul, family, getting to the point where you have something. So like, what do you think would be the easiest thing for you to do right now? Like, do you think it's yoga? Do you think it's meal plans? Like, what could you do? Like, if you were going to push the live button today and go live by yourself, what would you do or talk about or demonstrate?
I would probably talk about the importance of being who you truly are. That makes sense, because that's sort of what I'm really going through right now. So just the importance of, aligning yourself with your path. So however, that may look, because we spend so much time, just dismissing things that are really calling to us. So, maybe talking about that and trusting your intuition and just embracing that, but also like, hey, like it's okay to be where you're at. That's the other thing, that
permission slip,
that permission slip. And like, I saw Brandy was saying like, I do both. That's absolutely 100% okay. Like I'm still working full time as a pharmacist. I'm not a full-time health coach making $1 million or whatever, but like, that's okay. It's a journey. And like, that's exciting to have something to work towards. And there's nothing wrong with being a pharmacist. There's nothing wrong with being a nurse or like whatever, you were before.
We were talking about this with medication, like, like really destigmatizing that, because a lot of people do need to take medication.
Absolutely.
And we also know that there's a lot of stuff besides medication that works. So like,
the balance.
Like what I always say with people with therapy is like, research says the best outcomes are therapy, medication, and exercise. Now if you're really gung-ho about one of those things, like, yeah, if you do one, you can probably have it work, but like all of the things will get you even better results. So,
Right.
you know, and what can you be consistent at? What are you actually like? That's why people like medication. Like it's easier to take a pill than it is to go like sweat at the gym for an hour, right?
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
same thing with business. It's like, what could you commit to? So like, you know, you're already recording videos for the online gym piece. You're already doing classes. So I would imagine that like feels pretty comfortable, pretty easy for you. So I feel like yoga definitely could be a piece of it. What came up for me when I was listening to you was maybe just doing like a simple, we were talking about like the easy no brainer sort of products like $99, $197, even 37. And if you get enough people in those, like I saw this a lot during when I was investing in anti-racism with the George Floyd murder. They were at low ticket prices like 97, 197, 397, but then there was like 100 people, 200 people, 400 people in it. So if you've got 400 people at $200,
Right.
I can't even do math because it's still early in the morning and I haven't had enough coffee, but it's a lot of money, you know? And so low ticket, I think, is easier to sell sometimes because there's not like all that baggage of like, am I worth like thousands of dollars? And yet like, you know, you can create it once and then it gives people like a taste. So that's what we call the value ladder. You kind of want to have different products at different price points and like, you know, the ability to like let people get like the flavor of what it's like. But what came to me was sort of like, what would it be like to do sort of like follow your bliss, spiritual awakening, discover yourself through yoga,
Love it.
you know? And then it's not like you're not training to be a yoga teacher. You got that kind of like personal transformation piece. You already know how to do the yoga classes.
Right.
And then it's just about like putting the masculine container around it. So there's lots of different platforms. That would be definitely something we covered in the academy is like, you know, do we do ClickFunnels? Do we do, you know, a website? Do we do like just within a Facebook group? You can do it really simple like that. There's all different kinds of ways. And then like getting over that tech overwhelm, like how do you make a PayPal button? Like all of these things that like people can't pay you if you don't have a payment mechanism, you know? And so that's when you really become a real business. And the great part about an online business is that we don't have all the overhead. Like we're actually here in my office. And you know, I have to pay rent for this. And so with an online business, you know, you do get to the business deductions. So I was telling Kathlin, like, you can deduct this Fearless Feminine Academy program. Next time you go on a yoga retreat, you can like deduct that. Like if we were having this meeting over, you know, lunch, we could deduct that. Like, so it's really great. Your cell phone, like all of these kind of like business expenses. And so it's like creating that business lifestyle and you can take a loss actually up for 5 years. So like, even if you don't have like a lot of revenue coming in, you can still take these deductions because, you know, the government knows it takes a little bit of time to build a business. But I think with online, it can really speed up that trajectory and it can speed up the amount of, people you can reach, you know. So for like me as a psychologist, you know, I'm in Maryville, Tennessee. It's like a small town outside of Knoxville. You know, I'm limited by, I mean, the board says I can only see people in Tennessee. I'm limited by people who can drive to me. But then when you take it online, like I actually have like quite a few international Fearless Feminine graduates. I had someone who was in Scotland at the time. I had someone who was in Finland. I love the international
so cool.
vibe. And I think that's a big way that women have like shook off all these like judgments, fears, insecurities, shoulds, and just like live life by following their wanderlust that eventually like turned into a business. But I think that could be something super easy because we were short on time and energy and all that stuff, like not investing in a million programs, except mine. And then, you know, my goal is because I've done it the hard way and I can tell you all the ways that we can self-sabotage because I've done it. I'm doing it. And so like, it's so easy to see it in someone else though. So like as the coach, it's actually like way easier than doing it yourself. But yeah, talking about like, we could film maybe like a couple of yoga classes. You could figure out like what number felt good to you at that price point. I mean, I would say even like 1, 2, 3 could be good. I remember you were sharing with me that journaling class that you took. You could have like some journal prompts.
Yeah.
Maybe you could have like a welcome video. Maybe you could do like a little quick, like 2-minute video about, you know, here's what we're going to be journaling about. Here's a good way to journal. Here's what's worked for me. Like, here's what kind of like give some examples of like when they're journaling about spiritual awakening. Here are some of the common things that come up when we are going through a spiritual awakening. And so you kind of, because some people face the blank page and they're like, I don't know.
Right.
So like when you're coaching, like obviously like you're the guide, and then we could get you like a really cheap platform where literally your overhead could be like $100 a month to host this program. So if you sell one program a month, you broke it even, like say it's 97 or 197 or whatever price point you decide. And, I think you could have, they say the niches are in the riches, or I like to say niche because it sounds like fancy. But, a lot of us healers want to like help everyone. And so they sort of say like, the more that you narrow down to your target market, then you can speak to them. So if you've ever read a post and you're like, oh my God, that's me. Oh, it's like she's in my head. Like that's content gold. And so that's like a big part of the Fearless Feminine Academy is really niching down, finding your target market, working on your messaging. And like, I'm a channeler. So like really just speaking through your soul. And it's really easy for the head to be like I did a whole thing on Mary Magdalene, which is like a big part of my spiritual awakening. But I'm like, are people going to like freak out if I talk about this?
Right.
So like it's our own like censorship that comes up around those things. And I think I've got a really unique piece because of my trauma therapist background. Like I'm working on that wounding stuff with people all the time, and we're curing anxiety and depression. And I really do feel like these passion project businesses, these big soul missions, like are the ultimate cure for those kind of things. So, I mean, I think, if you decided to join the Fearless Feminine Academy, we could have you like up and running in 2 months with like low overhead.
I think I just got chills.
No,
like
that's how you know it's
so
the right
exciting.
side, like intuition. And you could just have that one product. And then, like I said, I mean, within that container, I think we could definitely get something live for you. And then you could have some money rolling in. And as the money started to roll in, then you could maybe start cutting back further and further and further to then maybe you could get to like, like halftime, and then you could like go to the kids' events, you could like drop them off at school, or you could just like take a bubble bath and be alone in the house. Like those are my favorite things. So yeah, well, thank you so much for doing this on the fly. And
it's my pleasure.
I'm going to buy your product. Like I definitely feel like yoga for spiritual awakening, that has just definitely been, I'm not really been doing yoga recently, but that was definitely one of my big spiritual awakenings early on. And I've done it on and off for 20 years. So I feel like that's so powerful and so needed. And I think what I love about coaching is like, yeah, there are some high dollar amounts, but you're also going free all the time. So like you're really serving to people regardless of whether they're paying for it or not. So the people that want access to you one-on-one or to be in your containers, they're getting the benefit of like the up close and personal version of you. And then, you also get to serve at this deep level and like reach so many people, whether or not they can afford it. And so I just love that you can really serve people, because that's kind of what you're missing with the pharmacist gig. Like you're so focused on getting all the tasks done that you can't spend the one-on-one time to like change people's lives the way that you want to.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, your homework would be to like maybe channel like your business name. We want like kind of like a juicy, seductive, like what's the title of your program, and then it's going to evolve. Like when I first was doing Fearless Feminine Academy, I was in this program about developing your high-end signature product. And I was going to actually do like curing panic attacks. And then, cause I thought, well, it's breathing. Like that's something that I've had a lot of success with, helping people through. But then I was like, but that's what I'm already doing. And I like really want to do something more than that. And so the name came to me first. And then after that, it was really about like, like visibility fears and like, what's it like when you really, the good part about when you're really on your soul mission is like things just synchronize and it becomes really easy. But then it also does like bring up this like, people pleasing, like, am I worthy of this? We think we're afraid of failure, but like sometimes we're like more afraid of success. So
yes, that is so true.
It is so true. So, I really designed the program to like, if you just have like a healer with a good idea, like that is like my bread and butter. If you're a little more established in business, then we can really work on like the leadership edge of like how to say what you really want to say, how to like create that revolutionary vibe, how to support yourself in that. And whether you're working the day job or whether you're in your business, like it can be kind of traumatic. It's like stressful to have all those things on you. So how do we just like at a personal level create with pleasure, embody pleasure, like really make it just like streamlined and easy, because that's where the momentum is. So
That's right.
I hope you'll join me and Kathlin in the academy. And we want you to have your like soul driven business mission out there in the world, because you know, it's like the pay it forward thing, you know, like if I help her and then she's got all her people and then those people have their people. And that's like how we have like revolution and like basically like change and heal the world. So thank you all so much for being. I am offering free discovery sessions. So if you even if you're like, I don't really have the money, but like, I've got an idea. Like, please get on a call with me. I'll give you some free tips. Like, we'll go for it. We'll figure out something. Like I said, I am developing things at every level. So I really would just, my mission, it's not as much about the money for me. Like we both have a certain level since we've, you know, overachieved. We've got our bills paid, you know, we're doing what we want to do. And so, you know, in my mind, it's more about like helping the collective get to this point where we're all like safe and happy and fulfilled and self-expressed and like taking up all the space. So any just final thoughts or words?
You know, if this, one of the great things just about Megan and her background, I just have to say this because as she was talking, I'm just like drawn in, is she recognizes that there's all these fears that are unique to us as women, as, you know, maybe as a professional or just wherever you are in life. But, you know, you do deserve good things and like you are worthy. And like, if I'm the only person that's told you that, you know, in a while, like just know that you can do hard things. And I mean, if something is really calling you, like, I think you should follow it. And I think that, you know, it doesn't have to look a certain way. It's unique to you. And she's excellent about like guiding that, helping you embrace that and, you know, bringing that in. So I'm excited for the academy.
It's like the psychic part of me, you know, it just comes through, and I wish I could do this as well for myself. I kind of can, but like then I'll get in my own fears about it. But for someone else, it just like comes straight through because I've have more practice with that, having been, you know, a healer and a therapist for so long. But I thank you and receive all that you've said about me. That's really sweet. And, you know, like, look at what happened. Okay. Like you came in for a session. I was like, oh, I'll give you like a free, you know, I won't do this to you all, but, you know, I know Kathlin, she knows what to expect with me. But what have we learned already? We've got a business plan. You know how to go Zoom. You're already speaking in front of a live audience. Like, and this was the discovery session. So I promise I won't put you all on camera unless you want to be. If anyone wants to do a live like strategy session with me, actually, I'm totally all about that. So if you're brave and you want to go for it, like Kathlin did, like send me a DM. If you need like a little more like hand holding, like one-on-one, I promise not to put you on camera right away. But here's the thing, like the faster you get on camera, like, you know, you didn't die.
Right. I'm still breathing. A little shaky, but you know, it's like a good shake though too. You know, sometimes you need a little push.
If you saw my interview with Melanie, she was like a yoga instructor, and she actually went on Britney Spears' tour that Oops, I Did It Again, and was her personal yoga instructor.
That's so cool.
But I did the same thing to her where we were having that social justice meeting and she hadn't like read that we talked about going live on it. And so she's the former model and yoga instructor. Right. And she was like, Megan, I'm not camera ready.
Oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. I know the one from the group. Yeah. Oh, she's awesome.
Yeah, she's cool. And I'm like, you're beautiful. Like, who cares? You know, but like when you're here in the 100-degree office, like we are in sweatshirts, like, I mean, we do need like a little bit of prep. But here's the thing, you just need someone to like give you that loving push to just say like, just push play and do it, right? Yep. All right, y'all. Come get on the phone with me. Come join the academy. We're going to be creating like amazing stuff together. And, you know, the world needs more women with wealth, with passion, with time for their families, with feeling good. Because I really do believe that that's like the revolution that's here and that's coming and it's available to all of us. And that's like, once we have the power, we're going to like set some things straight, right?
Right. Watch out.
Right. All right, y'all. Have a good day. Catch you later. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Divine Feminine Revolution podcast. Make sure to subscribe and leave a 5-star review. Want to keep the conversation flowing? Find us on Facebook at the Divine Feminine Revolution Facebook group, where revolutionary women gather to listen to their hearts, monetize their gifts, and change the world.